Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Election Day and technology. Who better to Tech Talk what you can expect to see on today's ballot and our state's unique e-government solutions for voters than Georgia's Chief Elections Administrator? That's right. Today's Tech Talk is with the Secretary of the State of Georgia, Brian Kemp. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, November 8th, 2011, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. It's an Election Day exclusive, a special interview with Secretary of State and Chief Elections Administrator Brian Kemp. Secretary Kemp has implemented numerous e-government solutions for voters and established his state as a national model for election security. From the My Voter Education website that allows voters to view their sample ballot, find early voting locations and times, and even verify their registration status, to Georgia's military and overseas voters able to download and print absentee ballots, and more. Secretary Kemp also speaks on the state's new Stop Voter Fraud website, where citizens can report questionable elections-related activity right online. It's a one-of-a-kind Elections Day special edition of Tech Talk you will not want to miss. From the breadth and scope of a statewide election to the e-solutions that are impacting how we in the state of Georgia interface with our government. The Tech Talk turns to Get Out the Vote, as we have a rare privilege to speak directly with the government leader charged with conducting efficient and secure elections on Election Day. It's a Tech Talk with Georgia Secretary of State, Brian Kemp. Mr. Secretary, welcome to Tech Talk.
Great to be on with you.
Mr. Secretary, I can only imagine it's a chaotic day, and one great thing is that it'll all be done by the end of the evening, but today is Election Day. I guess one of the things that we could begin with would be give us some insight as to what the voters can expect to see on the ballot today.
Well, it is certainly a busy day for us, as every election day is, and depending on where you live, today's elections will be held in more than 60 counties and over 250 cities on offices such as county commissioner, mayor, city council. We have the Sunday sales issue that's been going on, is on the ballot in many communities. Also, education, speed lost, distilled spirits, and more.
Well, that's a pretty heady list of opportunities for people to get to express their opinion, to get an opportunity to vote. Obviously, in a sense, you get the government you deserve, so we definitely call out to everyone to go to the polls, get out and vote. What are the poll hours going to be?
As usual, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Unless there's some technical reason that they do not open on time. And sometimes in that case you may have a judge that will grant a waiver where they could stay open later, so the polls, regardless, will be open for a full 12 hours. But under normal hours, which is normally the case, at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Now, obviously, we're the Technology Association of Georgia. We're speaking to statewide industry leaders, a lot of executives and people that are involved in technology. Let's drift into that just a little bit. Can you describe the technology being used for the elections today?
Well, we have a tremendous amount of technology that we use in elections. It's certainly one of my biggest initiatives in our office, is to make sure that we're using technology to make the Secretary of State's office more efficient, be able to streamline our processes, and also use technology to help us reduce cost. We've really done some neat things. About a year ago, we rolled out our My Voter page, which if you go to the Secretary of State's website, which is sos.ga.gov, you can click on the MVP button, and all a voter has to do is put their first initial, their last name, their date of birth, and the county which they live in, and it'll pull up their individualized voting information, their precincts, there's all kind of, it'll be too late on Election Day, but normally you could request an absentee ballot on this site. You could also track that absentee ballot during the voting process to make sure that it actually gets received and voted. You can just get a tremendous amount of information. You can also pull up a sample ballot. So certainly last year in the general election and in the primaries, we had sample ballots. As you know, there was many candidates in several of the races, so it would let people know exactly who those folks were. For those type elections, we also had links to the campaign's websites. And it'll differ a little this time because we're dealing mostly with municipal elections and county spiloshes. But it is a great site for voters to check out and use. Even today, to see what's going on, there's locations for the polls and precincts, directions if you don't know how to get there. There's a link to directions, and it's just a great resource for the voters.
Mr. Secretary, could you give us that URL again?
If you just go to our homepage, which is sos.ga.gov, and there's a big button on that page that says MVP, like most valuable player, but it stands for My Voter page. If you'll just click on that button, it'll take you right to our MVP page.
Got it. One more point. I've heard also about a stop voter fraud feature. Is that?
Yeah. The other thing that we're doing, and it's something that I have been focused on, is to make sure we have secure, accessible, and fair elections in our state. As you know, unfortunately, there are some folks out there that will do bad things in an election and try to commit voter fraud. We want to try to be as diligent as we can to make sure that no one's vote is canceled out by a fraudulent vote. And one of the first things I did when I got in office was create a Stop Voter Fraud website. You can also, if you just go to the Secretary of State's homepage, as we just discussed, you can click on the Stop Voter Fraud button. That will take you to a page where even if you're, in a parking lot after you vote and you've seen something that you want to report, you can shoot us an email. A lot of people don't realize, but we have a full law enforcement division in the Secretary of State's office that deals with voter fraud or potential voter fraud, and we will get someone to investigate that. We also have a 1-800 number listed on our Stop Voter Fraud site so if people don't have access to email or would rather just use the phone, that you can call in a complaint that way. And it's just a way that we can empower the citizens to help us make sure that we have secure elections in Georgia.
Red or blue, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, one thing that we all care about is our military. Maybe just touch upon a little bit about what the department has done relative to the military personnel who are overseas.
Yeah, we really did a lot from a technology standpoint. Georgia was one of the first states in the country with the help of the legislature to pass the MOVE Act on a statewide basis, which is the Military Voting Empowerment Act. Basically what that legislation does, it says that we must provide an electronic ballot to our military and overseas voters 45 days before an election. We were one of the first states to pass that. It was one of my initiatives. We also were one of the first states to implement that and go live where a soldier, even if they were on a boat in the middle of the ocean in the Middle East somewhere, if they could get to a computer and a printer and have internet access, or if it was a base in the middle of Iraq or Afghanistan, they could actually go, if they had requested an electronic absentee ballot, we would notify them when the ballot was ready. They would go to the MVP page, put their individualized information in, and then they would print out a overseas ballot, electronic ballot would print out. It would have the UOCAVA watermark on it. They would simply fill that ballot out and mail it in. Under the old process, we would actually have to mail that ballot, and then they'd have to turn around, fill it out, then mail it back in a 45-day period. And sometimes that's impossible to do when you're dealing with places like Iraq or Afghanistan, trying to get that ballot to that soldier, have them fill it out, and then mail it back. So we basically cut the time in half where it takes for military and overseas voters to vote, and we're real excited about that. And I will mention that we did that with our own IT people at no cost to the taxpayers when you had other states that were getting sued by the Justice Department because they were not in compliance with that, or they were having to pay private vendors a tremendous amount of money to get that done.
Well, Mr. Secretary, again, it is today's election day. It's time to get out and vote. Obviously, don't let others decide for you. You make your own decision. Get out and vote. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for taking time from what's got to be one of your busiest days of the year to spend a few minutes with us here on Tech Talk.
Well, we're glad to do it. I enjoyed being on with you. Take care.